Could New Mexico be the very next state to legalize marijuana? Possibly. It has definitely taken a big hurdle towards that step. Now, New Mexico has been dancing around the marijuana legalization issue for a very, very long time. It's come very close a few times, but each year it seems almost like it gets a little bit closer and closer. So let's dig into it and see. From KOAT 7 Action 7 News, bill to legalize pot clears committee. From Santa Fe, a bill legalizing recreational marijuana passed the Senate Public Affairs Committee Tuesday evening at the Roundhouse, bringing it one step closer to becoming law. However, one of the sponsors said the measure still has a long way to go. And it does, and it's always been this way with New Mexico. It's gotten to that point, and it'll pass certain hurdles, and it'll get right there, but then it will fizzle out and die, and then resurface the next time. But it's been a long revolving door process. My cup runneth over with hope, but truly there are a lot of well-meaning questions that need to be asked, said Senator Jacob Candelaria, a Democrat from Bernalillo County. Candelaria said he hopes his fellow lawmakers will put aside their misguided assumptions about marijuana use and think about the benefits it could have for the state. And benefits, yes, absolutely. Tax revenue, you're creating an entire job revenue. I put it this way. Look at it this. Let's say that you are back in time and you know for a fact in a couple days alcohol prohibition is going to end. And you're sitting next to someone who's one of the big founders of one of the big alcohol production places. Now, you've got a couple ways to look at this. One, you can look at it selfishly like, yeah, you invest what you have right now, $500-600 now, and poof, you're worth millions later on. And then your generations and generations and generations have this safety net of, wow, great-great-great-grandfather made a really good decision back in the day, perhaps an unpopular decision, but poof, you know what? He invested in it and it paid off for generations in the future. Or you can look at it from the other point of view of, hey, you know, where are your morals at? Should we make something illegal that people are going to use anyways? Alcohol prohibition didn't work. Marijuana prohibition does not work. It just drives it underground. It creates gangs. It creates a black market. It is in an uncontrolled environment. If we own it, we can put it in a controlled environment. We can tax it. We can profit off of it. And you're making an entire new job base. We see that this legislation is about creating 11,000 jobs in New Mexico in a very short period of time, he said. And I would even wager that it would be more than that, because time after time when states legalize it, they say, well, we predict this, we predict that, and it shatters all their predictions. States can't even produce enough and keep it on the shelves. It's that popular. I mean, it's like coming home and cracking open a beer, or getting yourself a bottle of wine, or taking a bubble bath with champagne, or whatever your relaxation is of choice. Maybe it's even going home and playing video games. Whatever it is that you do when you come home from a hard day of work and you got this, I just want to kick back and relax. Whatever it is that you do, the same thing with marijuana. Let people relax how they want to relax. Why not? Why do we need to dictate to someone else what they do with their body, right? That's one of my liberal views. Yes, I'm a little bit liberal, a little bit conservative. I'm a human being. Imagine that. Meanwhile, the anti-legislation group Smart Approaches to Marijuana held a press conference at the Roundhouse as well. Everywhere that has legalized marijuana, like my home state of Colorado, has seen huge increases in marijuana impairment on the roads, said Luke Niferatos. San Juan County Sheriff Shane Ferrari agrees. He said the state does not have the infrastructure to test for THC levels in drivers, because that requires an expensive blood test. Okay, so a con, absolutely, I could definitely see that happening, but if you don't believe it's happening right now, people driving down the road stoned, and you're absolutely hiding with your head down in the sand. I mean, I've been driving and stopped at a red light in my rearview mirror, and I'll look up and I'll see someone blazing up. Okay, it happens all the time, everywhere, whether it's legal or illegal. It's going to happen. Will it happen more when it's legal? Possibly. There's a good chance that it will. That's just something that we have to sort out. We have to weigh out, the pros and cons. saving money on prisons, getting people out of prisons, creating jobs, having the possible wrecks now and then that are marijuana related. I'm sure we have them now. These are all pros and cons and things that we have to think about. The part with the wrecks, well, I do have to admit that personally that does kind of put a little bit of a, what can we do to solve that? I would like to possibly see maybe a way to address that. And I'm not talking about blood tests. That's catching it after the fact. I'm talking about finding some sort of a way to, like with alcohol, a program. Hey, you know what? If you have smoked too much, we have places where you can go, bars that you can go smoke at. If you have smoked too much, here's a taxi service. All you socialists out there should be happy with the fact of, hey, maybe we can increase taxes to pay for a free transportation service for the safety of others for when people are both drunk and stoned or something. But we definitely do need to set some place up for people to go, like bars, have a place for people to go where there's someone behind the bar that can look and be like, hey, you know what, maybe you've had too much. Where we can have someone who's trained in the green light, red light, or yellow light. If you're in the service industry, you know what I'm talking about. And they can have a bar and they can look and they can say, you know what? I think that you have smoked too much. Here, you know what? Let me give you some munchies. Kick back, relax, have a seat. Do you need a ride? Something to that effect. Have it somewhat controlled, because in your home, well, it's totally up to you. There's nobody to say, hey, maybe you've had too much. I don't know. Those are my personal opinions. In fact, I do really like the idea of having a place for people to go to out there to smoke, where you've got someone who is trained in focusing on people and saying, hey, that person right there has had too much to eat. Then every solution has a problem. What do you do about secondhand smoke? Do you have bartenders with, gas masks? I don't know. Anyways, Candelaria said there's a false crime narrative surrounding legal pot. And I agree, too. Absolutely there is. It's like the gateway drug. Someone says, well, he smoked pot, and then he did this, and then he did this, and then he went and did this crime. So therefore, pot was the gateway drug. Pot was the answer. No. If, by that same logic, oxygen is the gateway drug, because every single person who has committed a crime has one thing in common. They have all breathed oxygen at one point in their lives. Therefore, oxygen is the gateway drug. Okay? That's same logic. You can't attribute everything. Correlation is not causation. Continuing to read. Every evening you hear about a violent crime. Rarely is that person, quote-unquote, stoned, he said. And in fact, I would say just the opposite. You get someone who wants to go commit a crime, you get them stoned, and they're probably more apt to sit at home and eat Cheetos and watch cartoons. Neferatos also argued that legalizing marijuana would lead to more children using the drug, despite an age minimum of 21. I don't believe that is the case. I don't. You look at it the same thing as alcohol. It's the same thing. There's not really much of a difference. Now, it is in its infancy, and as it goes through its infancy, we've got to realize there are going to be these crazy things that are going to happen. It's going to be like, oh, man, how is that stupid thing happening? But as things get settled down and laws get put into place and it becomes more of a blasé, like alcohol, yeah, alcohol's a thing, some people go out and drink. Marijuana's a thing, some people go out and smoke. But I do believe we should have, what would you call them, hash bars, marijuana bars, joints. Anyways, the more permissive the environment, the more youth are going to think it's harmless, he said. No, not necessarily. We live in the communication age. If you don't think that the youngsters today don't know what marijuana is and probably know more about marijuana and alcohol than you and I both, then you've got another thing coming. You don't know kids. They are curious little kids, and you give them a computer. They go out there to their friend's house, have a computer. They've got a computer at school. They've got a smartphone. They've got friends who have smartphones. They have access to this. They're educated. Trust me, they know. Candelaria said lawmakers have a plan for regulation and taxation, noting that the state already regulates tobacco and alcohol. The bill now moves to the Senate Judiciary Committee. So that will be interesting to see if they legalize it. On a personal note, me, myself, I do have a medical marijuana card. I have PTSD and several other factors that I use it for. It is definitely a good medicine that has helped me. Before this, I was taking the prescribed PTSD cocktail, the 400 milligrams of Seroquel. I forget what the milligrams of Trazodone was, 20 or something like that. And then in the morning, like 2 milligrams of Celexa to try to counteract the pills from before. And I would be a zombie the entire next day, just unable to move, because the Seroquel is just a horrible drug. The Seroquel, it's just, I don't even want it. It's a horrible drug. So for me, it really is a medicine. It is a medicine that improves my personal quality of life. I wouldn't be able to function, so to speak, without it. So on a personal note, I'm a proponent of legalization, but I'm a proponent of legalization under regulation. So, but give me your opinions, your thoughts, your views. That's what this is all about. Do you believe it should be legalized? Do you believe it should remain illegal? Should we continue marijuana prohibition? Has marijuana prohibition worked up until this point in your mind? Let me know what you think. Thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys on the next one.